During the Vietnam War, 1964 to 1973, the U.S. dropped around 2 million tons of bombs on Laos. This makes Laos the most heavily bombed country per capita in history. An estimated 270 million cluster bombs were dropped, and about 30% of them failed to detonate, leaving unexploded ordnance that still affects the country today. The bombing of Laos by the United States was primarily part of two covert operations during the Vietnam War: Operation Barrel Roll and Operation Steel Tiger. The goal was to disrupt the movement of North Vietnamese troops and supplies along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which passed through Laos and Cambodia, and to support the Royal Lao government against the Pathet Lao, a communist insurgent group allied with North Vietnam. Disrupting the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was a critical supply route used by North Vietnam to transport troops, weapons, and supplies to their forces in South Vietnam. Parts of the trail ran through Laos, and U.S. bombing campaigns aimed to block or destroy these routes. Preventing the spread of communism. The U.S. feared the spread of communism in Southeast Asia, following the domino theory, which posited that if one country fell to communism, others in the region would follow. The Pathet Lao, supported by North Vietnam and the Soviet Union, sought to establish communist control in Laos. Supporting the Royal Lao government. The U.S. backed the anti-communist Royal Lao government and local ethnic groups like the Hmong, who fought against the Pathet Lao. Bombing was part of the effort to support these allies and disrupt communist gains. Covert War, CIA's secret war. Laos was officially neutral under the 1962 Geneva Accords, which prohibited foreign military activity. To circumvent this, the U.S. conducted a covert bombing campaign, managed largely by the CIA, to avoid international scrutiny. Laos became a key battleground in the so-called secret war. Casualties and displacement. Tens of thousands of civilians were killed during the bombing campaigns, though exact numbers remain uncertain due to the covert nature of the war. Many survivors were severely injured, losing limbs or suffering from burns and trauma. Entire villages were destroyed, forcing 300,000 people to flee their homes. These civilians lived in refugee camps or caves to avoid bombing raids. Unexploded ordnance UXO. "30% of the bombs failed to detonate, leaving Laos littered with 80 million unexploded bombs. Since the war ended in 1973, over 20,000 civilians have been killed or injured by these UXOs, with many being children who accidentally discover them while playing or farming. UXOs restrict land use, making agriculture hazardous. Farmers are often injured or killed while plowing fields, leading to chronic food insecurity in affected areas. Economic and development challenges. With large areas contaminated by UXOs, agriculture, a primary livelihood, remains dangerous, preventing economic growth. The cost of UXO clearance is extremely high, and progress is slow. Only about 1% of the contaminated land has been cleared since the war. The government and international NGOs continue to dedicate resources to UXO removal and victim assistance, but poverty persists in many affected regions. Psychological and social trauma. Survivors and families of victims often experience psychological trauma and depression. Communities remain socially and economically marginalized, with some people developing mistrust toward foreign intervention. Intergenerational impact. UXO accidents still occur today, causing injuries to the next generations born long after the war ended. The lack of access to medical care worsens these impacts. In affected regions, many children are unable to attend school regularly because families prioritize UXO clearance activities or agricultural work for survival. UXO clearance and risk education programs. Organizations involved. UXO Laos, the national agency responsible for clearing unexploded bombs. Mines Advisory Group, MAG, an international NGO working on UXO clearance and safety education. Norwegian People's Aid, NPA, and the Halo Trust are also involved in clearing landmines and UXOs. Education campaigns teach children and rural populations how to recognize and avoid UXOs. These programs are vital as many accidents involve children who unknowingly handle these bombs while playing or farming. Medical and rehabilitation support for victims. Survivor assistance programs offer medical care, including surgery, prosthetics, and physical therapy. Victims often lose limbs, and access to prosthetics is critical to help them regain mobility. COPE, Cooperative Orthotic and Prosthetic Enterprise. COPE provides prosthetic limbs, orthotic devices, and wheelchairs to survivors. They also run outreach programs to help victims in remote areas access healthcare and treatment facilities. Mental health support is also being integrated, though resources remain limited. Victims and families receive psychological counseling to deal with trauma. Economic and social reintegration program. Many UXO survivors face stigma, poverty, and unemployment due to physical disabilities. NGOs and local organizations provide vocational training and microloans to help victims start businesses or return to work. Income-generating programs. Some victims are employed in agriculture projects or as community educators, helping raise awareness about UXO risks. Government and international support. The Laos government, though resource-constrained, works in partnership with international donors to fund UXO clearance and victim support programs. Donors, the US, Australia, Japan, and the EU are among the largest contributors to UXO removal and victim assistance efforts. In 2016, then U.S. President Barack Obama pledged $90 million over 3 years to help Laos address the legacy of UXOs. Community advocacy and awareness initiatives. COPE Visitor Center in Vientiane raises awareness about UXO victims and Laos's bombing legacy. It serves as an educational hub, encouraging tourists and locals to support victim assistance programs. NGOs and local communities hold events and campaigns to advocate for more funding and raise global awareness about the impact of unexploded ordnance. Challenges. Despite these efforts, funding limitations slow down UXO clearance and survivor assistance programs. Victims in rural and remote areas often struggle to access medical services or rehabilitation centers due to poor infrastructure. The scale of contamination is vast, with only a small percentage of dangerous land cleared each year. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.